As you've probably heard by now, the San Francisco 49ers quarterback Trey Lance is apparently making dramatic improvements with his throwing motion and fixing some arm fatigue. That was rumored to be occurring last year, but again, the way it was reported, I think it left a lot of room for interpretation. But it does appear that Trey Lance was suffering from some form of arm fatigue in a recent article written by Matt Barrows of The Athletic that details all these things with his current quarterback coach. And I don't know if you remember back when Trey Lance and those videos came out of Trey throwing with Patrick Mahomes, they were working with one of the top quarterback coaches in the NFL. Matt Barrows of The Athletic took the time to go through and discuss with that quarterback coach what he saw from Trey Lance and some of the improvements that potentially occurred. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go through and read some of the quotes that came out of this from his quarterback coach Jeff Christensen in talking about Trey Lance and some of the biggest breakthroughs to come out and stood out when working with Patrick Mahomes earlier in the month. So, as we know, it's been well documented that Trey Lance has been working on his mechanics ever since he showed up in Santa Clara. It was apparent after he left rookie minicamp, and some of the first workout videos to come out showed Trey Lance's throwing motion was dramatically different opposed to what he looked like going in. And it has been an ongoing situation trying to adjust his mechanics. You even had Kyle Shanahan recently speaking at an event. He said, like, you don't go to the NFL to learn how to throw. It's the NFL. You better be ready to go. And it also gives some insight into some of the struggles that Trey Lance has been dealing with, including part of his accuracy when trying to retool his mechanics. Just like Kyle Shanahan said, the NFL isn't the place to come to learn how to throw. You should be showing up ready to go. And I think that's some of the issues that we've seen with Trey Lance and why we have seen maybe some inconsistencies. You still see the potential, you still see the wow throws, but you do see some inconsistencies along the way. And Christensen went on to say that when they were working together with Patrick Mahomes and he was able to see those mechanical changes that Christensen was trying to coach and watching Patrick Mahomes do it, that was the visual buy-in, the mental buy-in that helped him got past the mental hurdles. And that's where it really feels like the issues with Trey Lance have kind of been. It's been in the mental side of it and connecting the mental to the physical. And so it does sound like there was some substantial jumps in that regard, according to Christensen. And what he did say is that Trey Lance was able to keep getting better. One of the cool things about Trey Lance being able to work out with Patrick Mahomes again was being able to not only be coached by one of the top quarterback coaches who also coaches Patrick Mahomes, but being around Patrick Mahomes and seeing the things that are coached and being executed by the best quarterback in the NFL right now. Again, it just speaks to the leaps and bounds of Trey being able to hear it and see it at the same time from the top quarterback in the league. And from the sounds of it, it really does sound like what Trey Lance was able to learn from this practice situation was really beneficial. And not only were we able to see improved accuracy, uh, quickened throwing motion, things like that that come along with having a more efficient throwing motion. One of the big things that came out of this article was the fact that Trey Lance has really been suffering from arm fatigue. It was originally reported last year, I believe, from Mike Silver that Trey Lance had some arm fatigue. But again, the way it was presented, it just felt like it was more of a trait, like he just had an arm that got sore, rather than it being a relation to the refined and changed mechanics and his arms just not taking well to it. What Christensen had to say is basically the retooled motion has also addressed the other issue of his arm soreness. And these were things that I personally rationalized when we heard those things is because when you are changing your mechanics, you are changing what is comfortable for you. And you're putting different stresses on different muscles, different tendons. And if you're not doing it properly, just like if you were to change a technique when you're weightlifting or something like that, you're going to trigger different parts and muscles. They're going to be more sore because they're not used to that type of work or not intended to be used for those certain things. And if you go through this article, there was apparently a lot of soreness that occurred just because Trey Lance and his mechanics weren't working for him. He used examples of different quarterbacks that he's worked with since they were 12, never having to ice his arm, and the fact that Trey Lance did have to take days off because his arm would hurt. But apparently, after working with Christensen, he was able to get through it and not be tired the day after, which is huge. So it sounds like Trey Lance had made leaps and bounds progress in regards to his throwing motion for multiple things. Again, speeding up the release, being able to be more efficient with his movement, more accuracy, better spin on the ball, better delivery time. But of course, being able to not be fatigued and putting unwarranted stress on parts of his arm that didn't need to happen. So, one of the great things to come out of this article and what it really sounds like is Christensen, who works with some of the best quarterbacks to play in the league for a long time, he really does believe in what Trey Lance is capable of. And the fact that they were able to figure things out and get his long discussed throwing mechanics ironed out, which is going to take some time, it does sound like everything is heading in the right direction. And you see right here at the end with where Christensen left off, he said with his play, with Kyle Shanahan's play calling and this kid's upside, the kid being Trey Lance, with his upside and ability, he thinks he can be incredible. So this is just, it's a great report coming out of the Athletic from Matt Barrows, basically discussing all the things that Trey Lance has been working on and how he's going to be able to improve upon that. So again, it's really hard to count out a 23-year-old who's only had four games played under his belt. I understand the two sides of it. Trey Lance was raw, and he came to a team that was ready to win now. They didn't have the patience to be able to develop this kid maybe as he needed because, again, you need reps, and those reps are valuable, and they needed to put those in the hands of someone who's going to help them win games now. So we'll see. We'll see what we get out of Trey Lance, but all things considered, this sounds like an extremely positive report. Sounds like Trey Lance is improving at a rapid rate. And this workout with Christensen and Patrick Mahomes during this time period sounds like it was extremely beneficial. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.